Dead as a Doornail, Book 6 of the Stan Kraychik Mysteries. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 37. "She's his niece," says Nicole. "Yes, but not by blood," I say. "I thought you knew, doll, since Branco already told you about the marriage." "We didn't talk details," says Nicole. "I had no idea that Angie was related to him." "Not by blood," I say again. She did know him beforehand, but now she can officially call him uncle. "And wouldn't you like that?" says Nicole. She and I are at Snips the next morning. We're having coffee al fresco behind the shop, where I've set up a small cafe table and 2 chairs. I'm facing the alley as though there's some magnificent vista to enjoy, while I recount last night's grand finale tour. Nicole is trying to stop smoking again, which she does best with a cigarette in hand. "When did you find out all this?" said Nicole. "Last night at the station," I say. "After the arrest." Then I explain the details. Angie Gardenia's widowed mother. That's right. Tony Gardenia was Angie's father, recently married, a distant cousin of Lieutenant Branco's, ergo the Gardenia and Branco corporate name change. An abbreviated mourning period was sanctioned by the Gardenia dynasty for Angie's mother, since Branco's cousin had worked for the Gardenias all his life. He was almost like part of the family. In fact, that's how Angie already knew Branco, through occasional visits with his cousin. And the cousin was so close to the Gardenias that when he proposed to Tony's widow, no eyebrows were raised, at least not in public. "Probably no one dared," said Nicole, "but why was Angie hiding all this time?" "She wasn't hiding. Branco was trying to keep her in protective custody. Angie Gardenia was trying to find out what really happened to Timmy, too. Like me, she suspected Branco might be covering up a crime committed by her family against Timmy, and she didn't want to believe that. The only way to disprove it was to find out for herself." "And who called the police yesterday?" "Myron," I say reluctantly. "See," says Nicole. "There's good in everyone." She inhales deeply on her cigarette. By the satisfied glow on her face, it tastes even better outdoors. She says, "But I can hardly believe Chip Holton's reason for killing Timmy. Because he was afraid Timmy might tell the police about him." "That's about it, doll. Chip Holton is terrified of being perceived as gay." "And is he?" she says. "No," I say, "but he sure takes homophobia to a harrowing depths. And he isn't shy with his body either. The clincher is, I saved Chip's life, and at the station last night he told me he's going to sue me for scarring his hand." "No," says Nicole. "Branco says he has no case." Nicole says, "I'm just glad you weren't hurt. Considering my house is burned to the ground, at least it was insured." "That," squawks Nicole, "that was insured." "I had to get the special rehab mortgage." I feel someone's presence behind me. Nicole looks toward the door and says, "Oh my." I turn to look. Towering above me is Lieutenant Branco. He's sporting a shoulder sling that requires his starched cotton shirt to be open almost to his waist. From where I sit, there's a good view of Branco's chest. I find myself gulping hard. Branco does not wear a pet pouch. He says hello to Nicole, then he asks me, "Are you coming back to work?" "Maybe," I say hoarsely. Branco says, "Mind if I sit down?" Nicole says, "Take my seat," and she gets up. "Thanks," said Branco, and he sits. She says, "I have work to do out front, anyway." "Since when?" I say. Standing behind Branco, Nicole raises one eyebrow, then throws an odd glance down at the cop, which he doesn't see. Then she goes back inside the shop. Branco quietly tells me to close the door behind her. I do, then sit back down. He looks at me, then looks down. He looks up again and starts to say something. He looks up at the sky, then he looks back at me. Poor guy is hunting around for words. Finally, the cop takes a big breath and says, "These past few days have been pretty rough on me." "Me too," I say. Sometimes people say things and do things they regret later on. Me too, I say. Branco looks into my eyes. The air in the alley becomes still and warm, and the traffic sounds fade momentarily. The sight and scent of Branco's skin make my pulse race. He leans toward me. Circumstances can change sometimes, he says. You think you know who you are and who the people around you are, and then suddenly you see things how they really are. Me too, I say. What I'm trying to say is... There's a long pause. I know, I say. Finally he speaks, but a car horn blows and I hear Branco say, I owe you. You what? I say. You want me? He looks down at the ground. He looks up again. When I saw how you handled that situation last night. Down go to the eyes again. All I'm saying is that you performed as well as any cop I know. Up come the eyes again. Maybe better. If you were on the force, I'd cite you for a commendation. I tell myself not to shrug. I just did what I did. Branco says, you saved my life. He stands up. Get up, he says. I do. He comes toward me and puts his good arm around me. He pulls me into his chest and holds me there until I'm suffocated by the scent of clean cotton and his warm skin. From somewhere in another world, I hear him say, thanks, Stan. He lets me go, and I slump down in the chair, dazed. He's holding something out toward me. I look up. It's a black leather holster with a gun in it. The gun is a regulation police pistol. Both it and the holster show signs of wear and loving care. It's yours, he says. You mean yours, I say. Yours now. I take the thing. It's good that I'm sitting down because my usual perverse response to guns is worse than ever this time. Better, I mean. To deflect attention from it, I asked Branco, why did you lose your temper with Chip? He replies, it was the way he was talking, as though certain people didn't matter. Something touched a nerve, and I had to stop him. Believe me, I'm not proud of what happened. My emotional reaction put us all in danger. Maybe you ought to work on that touchy nerve. Branco makes one of his quiet grunts, and I know we're back on safe ground. From inside the shop comes an absurd knock on the back door. Come in, I say. It's Nicole. I sense someone is with her, and then I hear Angie Gardenia's voice. Uncle Vito, she says, I'm double parked out there, and they're going to tag me next time around the block. Branco says to me, I'd better go. I say, you don't even fix traffic tickets? No, he says. When he looks at me now, there's no smile, but I know that all our recent accusations of each other have evaporated. Meanwhile, Angie has heard my voice. She sticks her head out the door and says, what are you doing here? Branco tells her I work at the salon. You do hair? She says. I nod. Nicole pipes in. Used to. Angie says, so you guys are old friends? In a way, says Nikki. Angie says to me, if I'd have known you worked here, I would have kept my big yet shut about this police. I say, we're even, Angie. I wasn't exactly impartial towards your family either. Hey, listen, she says. For a while there, even I was thinking they killed Timmy, and let me tell you, I didn't want to believe that. Like my own family was from some opera. But now it's all okay. Even my mother getting married, that's okay now. She smiles toward Branco. He nods back like a concerned relative. One last question I have for Angie, and then the case is really closed. I asked her if Timmy really wanted my property. She says, where'd you hear that? Selena Hightower. Selena, says Angie. She wanted it herself. Selena had some stupid idea that my family blamed her for what happened to my father. and she thought the house might make them feel better. She shakes her head, and I think I may stoop. Nicole eyes me. Okay, so maybe the whole revenge angle wasn't just Selena's need to salve her guilty conscience. Maybe it was partly my need for operatic drama. Angie says, but no one in my family did anything connected to your property, ever. I say, what about Angelo Domenico Gardenia? Angie's eyes flash. You know about him? I researched my property too, Samantha. Angie shrugged. Turns out old Angelo was no relation, and using Samantha for my name was Timmy's idea. I couldn't use my real name down at City Hall because they'd know who I was in this town. Everyone knows the Gardenia name. So it was you who wanted my property. Why not, says Angie. I had this idea to fix the old place up, make it into one of those resort salons. Timmy was going to do all the work. I was even going to have some rooms for people to stay over. Kind of like a fancy guest house. But then you got the house, and it didn't happen. I'm kind of glad now. It was a stupid idea. Nicole smirks at me. I told her, shut up. Angie offers to go bring the car around through the alley, but Branco says, it's my arm, Angie, not my legs. The four of us go back through the shop. Branco and Angie leave together as Nicole and I watch them from the window. Outside, they get into Branco's double-parked Alfa Romeo. That's right. Branco has an Alfa too, just like me, but his is a hardtop and a classier vintage than mine. Angie's driving as they pull away. Branco gives me a parting glance and Angie beeps the horn. Nicole says, did you and the lieutenant kiss and make up? Pretty close, doll. I sensed he wanted to be alone with you. I show her the holster and gun. She says, and what about all those accusations? His or mine? Both. All gone. Nicole says, she's a virgin, you know. Angie? Nicole nods. How can you tell, doll? It's obvious, isn't it? Not to me. No, says Nicole. I suppose not. Later that day, I'm back at the shop for Nicole's TV special. She looks great. The shop looks great. The local stud muffin reporter looks great. And Ramon tries repeatedly to get into the camera frame with his angular, handsome face, grinning insipidly. The reporter keeps him at bay, but Ramon is persistent. Finally, right there in front of millions of viewers, the reporter, Boston's own paragon of southern gentility, politely asked Ramon if he would kindly step aside. In other words, Ramon, get your butt off the camera. During the following summer, I offered to help finance the completion of SECA's recreation center. Hell, if I can't join a gym, maybe I can help build one. Besides, who cares about being statuesque? We frivolisks live longer, happier lives. But the Gardenia clan once again exercises its sovereign power. They insist on honoring their original contract to build SECA's recreational center. But now they want to do it gratis, just to prove their goodwill toward gays. Maybe it's just another case of homophobes solving their guilt. But Nicole advises me to shut up and be grateful. As I sit in my apartment, counting the fire insurance money from my utterly destroyed house, I think maybe I'll build a modest little cottage on the lot. Just big enough for me, a small pet, and an occasional overnight fling. No more guest house dreams. If anything, I'll consider a more practical kind of business. Something like a first-class cat kennel in my backyard. I can call it the lap of luxury. It's during one of those pipe dreams that I get an urgent hairnet update from Benji. Penny, he squeals, are you sitting down? You know that hot Italian cop of yours? Wait till you hear this. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.